A Marvel VP takes off. The Hunger Games saga will continue. The Rohirrim ride in new footage, and the box office is box officing. All that and more coming up after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on the panel today, we have Haley Hobbs. What's happening, Haley Hobbs?
Well, I thought about branching off into my own timeline, but I thought I'll show up anyway.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing
You're
that.
welcome.
And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Hello. If I branched off into my timeline, Seinfeld would certainly be involved.
The belly button episode? All right.
It's a deep cut.
And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, I mean, summer is all about branching off into your own timeline. That's what it's for. So just own it. But I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Good. Glad you're here, bud. And I'm glad you're all here. Let's, you guys want to just dive right in? Let's get into the news.
Oh, yeah.
Let's dive right in.
We're all business here at Multiverse News.
That's right. Never take a break for any levity. Kevin Wright, Vice President of Production and Development at Marvel Studios, has left the media giant to pursue producing his own original TV and film ideas. Notably, Wright was an executive producer for the MCU streaming series Loki, which was actually his pitch to Kevin Feige and series star Tom Hiddleston. Wright originally started at Marvel as a development assistant. Can we find another creative mind like Kevin Wright in the multiverse?
Kevin Wright amicably leaving Marvel Studios doesn't seem like a big story, but when I was reading it and I read that he pitched Loki, he was even instrumental in the production design of the first season, which won Emmys, and that I think we all raved about separately and probably together, and just in the stratosphere in general, because it was such an iconic and distinctive look. This kind of strikes me at my heart, because I think, man, have we really lost somebody that could have been a great forward-thinking, new direction kind of person at Marvel? And it does sound like this is just him wanting to go branch off in his own timeline, which is why I started that way, and do his own thing. And I think that's fantastic for him that he's had this awesome creative base to start in and then launch his own stuff. But I don't know, as we've, talked about all the shakeups and the changes and the movies and TVs and the timeline of what they're going to release and how they're going to release it, I thought this was kind of a big loss for us, for the MCU, and maybe somebody new will step up. Maybe they'll hire somebody new. I don't know. But to go from a development assistant in 2018 to being this VP, that's not very long. That's like 6 years. So I don't know. He seems like a shooting star that went into the atmosphere.
Yeah, Marvel's pretty good usually at growing their own talent and then promoting their talent from within. I mean, we see people return to direct things, and then we see them get bigger and bigger responsibilities and bigger projects. And this is a good example of that, of taking someone who has talent and then just kind of gradually moving them up through your ranks. But at some point, you kind of reach that ceiling a little bit in terms of you can't really be Kevin Feige, right? And so if you want to be out there sort of helming films or helming productions, and that's what this article talked about, is that is his goal, is to go out and develop independent movies and independent projects and television shows, then at some point you got to sort of step outside of that zone that you've built at Marvel Studios. So I echo what you said, Haley. I mean, it is a loss. I mean, we've seen Loki has been in some ways kind of the thread that is holding a lot of this phase together. It's where a lot of the multiverse work has been done. It's where a lot of the exposition on Kang has been done, which we know was at least originally supposed to be a huge part of where this whole franchise is going. We don't know what that looks like now in stone, but still, you would imagine that Loki has laid some pretty impressive groundwork here for that. So, you're looking at somebody who probably mapped a pretty heavy direction of the phases that we are in now, and then the phase that we're getting ready to go into, and that's going to be a big loss no matter how you cut that. It's gonna hurt.
My initial reaction to this was not negative. I mean, obviously losing good talent is bad for Marvel, but I'm also always talking about how I want to see more original IP. So the idea that this guy who, if he was as instrumental in creating Loki as it seems, that is one of the most original seeming Marvel shows, and maybe he's just going to go out with that aesthetic and that sort of his sort of sensibilities and make great original content out there, and that's awesome. Nothing but good things happen from that, except Marvel losing him. But then in hearing you guys talk about it, and it had me wondering if, like, so they left amicably. This is just complete speculation, but we're hearing a lot about what's happening with Avengers 5 this last couple weeks, with people being offered jobs on that and people being offered positions doing that. And it made me wonder if, like, he didn't get a role in that he wanted or something, and like wanted to like move on, because they're clearly putting a production and development team together for that, and those characters are ones that he built up. You know, it seems like the Loki writer is very involved, and so I can and the Wasteland is very involved in the Deadpool movie, which, you know, the same director. It just seems like maybe he would have liked to do that, but maybe that wasn't what they wanted for him, and maybe he's like, well, I'll go do something else. So either way, good for creative people to do creative things.
Yeah, I appreciate the optimistic perspectives here, because this might be kind of a rare instance for me, but I approach this a little more cynically. Like, my first thought was, like, did he just get tired of constantly disappointing people who were excited to meet Kevin from Marvel Studios or work with Kevin from Marvel Studios, only to find out that it was Kevin Wright, not Kevin Feige. But I don't. This whole article kind of like reeked of me. Like, he was, you know, clearly so instrumental in making Loki season 1, and I imagine season 2 happened, but we've never really known his name. It's not till now that we know his name. So I did kind of the sense that he's like, hey, if I'm leaving, I want people to know what I contributed here so that they can follow me going into the future, which is totally his right. But it did very much read to me as like, hey, like almost like he hired someone to put this piece out there about him leaving just so his name would get that clout that it deserves. But, you know, looking at this, Loki season 1 through effectively X-Men 97, and he probably didn't have much involvement there. We've learned a little bit more and more about how the TV side of things seems to be doing its own thing, and Brad Winterbaum has kind of emerged as the name there. And honestly, it's probably just the fact that we do this show that the name Brad Winterbaum registers with me. I don't think it would otherwise, but it is right there in the heyday of the Multiverse saga, as we've been talking about, which, you know, is not the most resoundingly successful time to be a part of the studio, unfortunately. But, you know, regarding his stint here, it's simultaneously a considerable amount of time to be a part of the studio, but it's also not that long looking at the full lifespan of the MCU. So at any rate, despite his involvement, it was a name I never knew until now. So, and it's now that he's on his way out. But, you know, I also think about similar executives like Victoria Alonso. I'm struggling to remember how long it took for her name to kind of become ubiquitous with Marvel Studios. And again, it just kind of feels like he was like, hey, I'm not waiting for that day. I'm going to, you know, take my charge and break out and do my own thing. So to that end, yeah, I appreciate the optimistic perspectives here. And yeah, thinking about, you know, new original IP and coming from a strong voice and executive, I think it's a win for everybody.
I'll close out with my former boss would say, what if you don't educate good talent? And because people say, if you educate good talent, they'll leave you. And my boss would say, well, what if you don't educate them and they stay? So go Kevin, do your thing.
Absolutely.
I dig it. Happy Hunger Games! At least, certainly for fans of the franchise, as author Suzanne Collins announced a new installment in her Hunger Games saga called Sunrise on the Reaping, which will release March 18th, 2025. The book is another prequel like Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Alongside this announcement, Lionsgate shared that a film adaptation of the new book is already greenlit and currently set to premiere on November 20th, 2026. Who wants to volunteer as tribute?
I don't know if I'm quite ready to volunteer as tribute, but it is still fun to be a part of the world of the Hunger Games and Pan Am. And, you know, this did kind of come as unexpected for me. I was paying attention to the news docket we prepare each week, and I saw there was not one Hunger Games headline, but two. And sure enough, they're so closely connected with a new novel being announced and an adaptation. And, you know, I think back, like, I don't remember the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes being like a huge breakout or runaway hit, but it was far from the box office disasters that we've been discussing of late and that we're going to continue to discuss. And I guess that's apparently enough these days. So when you think about the future.
Sounded a little bitter there, Scotty.
Man, Scotty really is in a pessimistic mood tonight. I don't know.
I guess so. But, you know, all things all things considered, I am relatively excited for it because I did enjoy the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes for the most part. But I guess this is going to be a prequel that focuses on the character of Hey Mitch Abernathy, who Woody Harrelson played in the original trilogy. So I immediately started thinking, like, who's going to play a young Woody Harrelson? And I really, really struggled. And I eventually came up with Jacob Elordi, and that doesn't even feel right because I think he's too old at this point. And I also don't think he's interested based on, some of his comments about, the Superman role and whatnot. But again, thinking about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Tom Blythe was an unknown for me, and he was a real standout. Like, I'm really excited to see what he can do. I thought he had a really good performance. So if they can find somebody similar to that and, make them a household name or at least, start a burgeoning career, I'll be interested.
Yeah, it's interesting. This just makes me think about the idea that, like, these days IP doesn't die, and it doesn't seem like you mentioned, Songbirds and Snakes was that successful, right. And in another time it might not get a sequel, but Hunger Games has made it into that pantheon of things we apparently want 5 movies about. And so
6.
Oh, is this the 6th?
Won't it? Wasn't the third one 2 movies?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I forgot that. Okay, I think of the
you're
books.
Right. Yeah, it was.
Wow. Well, so we're getting 6 movies out of this franchise, and it's just like, you think about the older franchises that have that sort of status where we get that many sequels from them, these sort of epics like Star Wars, like Marvel, or well, not even Marvel really, it's newer, but Star Wars, Star Trek, things of that nature. And it's like, Star Wars had 3 movies for 30 years or whatever, and these days it's like you get an IP that works and they will just keep making it, and the IP is not going to die until it really dies, and then they'll bring it back 15 years later. It's just these things are constantly being revived, which is what we talk about here, so I ain't mad about it, but like, it's just interesting to see this get a sequel so soon after a mediocre outing with Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah, it was apparently enough to convince them that the franchise didn't need to go anywhere, but that we don't need to keep making Ballad of Songbird and Snakes movies, because I love the idea of like, all right, we want to bring this thing back, but the characters are all gone, so we're going to make a prequel, so we're going to back it up, and then we're going to make that, but then the prequel isn't what we think it is, so we're going to do another prequel that's just far enough away to where we can introduce all new characters. That's because that's what they're doing. They're just scooting it like 50, 60, whatever years down the timeline, just like, what about here? Are you guys interested in this area? It's like they're just scooting it just a little bit. Okay, well, if that doesn't work, maybe we back it up more past the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It's like, where's the sweet spot? And I just think that's kind of funny on some level. But this will be our 3rd iteration of the character of Snow, right? I mean, you have the old one, then you have this young one from the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and now they're going to have to get a middle-aged one. So we're going to keep that one thread, but we're going to just bring in some new characters because y'all want Hunger Games, right? Which is seems to be the mission here, which I think is kind of funny. But Suzanne Collins, I mean, also mad respect. I mean, she was just like, yeah, I'm going to write a book, and it'll be done by this date. I mean, George R.R. Martin, like, you better, I mean, you taking notes or what? Like, maybe listen up.
Yeah, writing a book and apparently working closely enough with the production team that they're greenlighting it and like probably beginning work because they already have a release date for the movie, which is wild.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I may be speaking out of turn here, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Suzanne Collins tried to get her start in the the Hollywood space as like a screenwriter. So she wrote those books kind of like with the hope and the aspiration that they would be adapted. So she's always kind of been on the precipice of making that kind of happen.
Makes sense. It's you talking about the way they're moving it around the timeline. It's reminding me of the sort of concept we've been talking about in a lot of different universes these days, particularly Star Trek and Star Wars, I think, are doing a lot of playing with the timeline and being like, we're going to set a movie here and then another one 100 years before and then another one 800 years after. And it's just like, we've talked about it a lot on the Star Trek podcast, Star Trek Universe podcast. Like, I feel like it is a detriment to a series to not move forward. Like, I think a prequel can be cool, but you need to have like, what is the current timeline? Like, what is the thing we're all like moving forward, particularly in Star Trek, because it's all about the future and moving forward and everything. And like, that is, I think, been a real problem with Star Trek. Is like they have shows that are happening right now at like 6 different timelines, and it's like, or 6 different eras of Star Trek, and nothing feels like it can live on its own because everything is making decisions for everything else because it's all existing on the same timeline. It's strange. I miss the days of Star Trek when like there was 3 shows on television and they were all concurrent, that's the kind of shows I like. Cause then you have all this crossover potential and like big events affect other shows and things like that. But, it's weird the jumping around the timeline. I don't know how I feel about it. All right, up next, at a panel for The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim at the Annecy Animation Festival, 20 minutes of the film was shown to the audience. The footage was applauded by the crowd and by Andy Serkis, who was running the panel. Serkis also revealed at the event that Miranda Otto, who played Éowyn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, will serve as the story's narrator, and that Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh were executive producers on the film, which hits theaters in December.
Yeah, I've been really interested in this movie because it was announced a long time ago, and then there was a long time that we just really didn't hear anything about it. And I think a lot of people even assumed during that time that it had just been cut, that it was something that was not happening at all, and had just been an idea. But then we started hearing about how it was done, and it was exciting, and it was getting some real momentum, and then they announced the release date, and then the actor strike happened, so it got pushed back. And now it sits in December. And I think it's really interesting because you're talking about an anime, which is not, everyone's cup of tea. I mean, I'm not really a huge anime person myself, but you've got kind of this like, shock. But it's weird because it's like, I think a big debate around the Rings of Power was like, what did Tolkien want? Like WWTD, what would Tolkien do? Like what would he jive with this whole thing that they've created here? And then the thing happened, and that was a lot of people got turned off by that. They were like, well, this doesn't match up with what Tolkien wrote. This doesn't match up with, certain types of storylines that we feel like were written by him or intended by him. And now we're going to have an anime of Lord of the Rings, and it's like that's Tolkien definitely couldn't have imagined that. So it's just kind of like, I think it's got that potential, I guess, in a way, to maybe divide people who are fans of Lord of the Rings specifically. It definitely also, though, can open up fans to people who are fans of anime, right? So maybe you can just kind of net the difference and it's fine. But I'm really fascinated by how this will do in theaters, because I think you'll have people from both sides of the aisle want to experience it. All we hear about it from the festival is that it was epic and it was interesting, and the footage was really good. The Miranda Otto being the narrator was a new piece of information, which I think is great. And the Peter Jackson being executive producer was a new piece of information, which I think changes the game a little bit too. That he's being involved with, we already know he's being involved with a couple spin-off films of Lord of the Rings, and now he's involved with this animated feature as well. So, Peter Jackson still very much got his hands in Lord of the Rings. And so all in all, I think we'll probably get a trailer for this relatively soon, I would imagine, probably within the next month or so. And I'm really interested in it. I think it's something that seems different and cool and just kind of like intriguing to me.
I feel like maybe Tolkien would have had some idea this might have happened because he was a big Dragon Ball Z fan. If you like follow his later writings, like he was a real big Dragon Ball.
Clearly influenced by Akira Toriyama. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess I'm going to continue my cynical streak here for a little while because Jay, you mentioned Peter Jackson being involved as an executive producer, and I go back to the recent announcement for that The Hunt for Gollum movie, and again, he's an executive producer on there, and that does not do anything to increase my excitement for that film. But in this case, it is a little bit different. I think people tend to forget that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, at least in terms of adaptations, they do have their roots in animation. There's those 70s animated kind of like rotoscoped films from Rankin and Bass, which I remember watching growing up well before I had ever even cracked one of the books open. So this does feel like kind of a nice marriage of the old and the new, and hopefully being faithful to the writing of Tolkien, like you mentioned. And like it's interesting as we've been talking about these various projects from Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings. Like, this has continued to be the one that I'm the most excited for. And again, it is the subject matter. I have the Two Towers is my favorite. I'm really fascinated by the Rohirrim and that whole culture and just the battles and warfare that takes place there. But the article in question here is kind of funny because they talked about the 20 minutes of footage receiving thunderous applause. And when I hear a quote like that, I'm immediately like, okay, Padme Amidala. You don't just go throwing around thunderous applause without knowing what you're doing there. So that being said, I am very jealous of the people that got to see the 20 minutes of footage because to my knowledge, we have not had any kind of footage. No trailer. We've seen a couple of stills, and all of those stills are kind of like a little obscure doesn't feel like the right word, but not very focused. Like it's not clear to me who the main character is. There are a lot of landscape shots. So I really want to see some of the character designs, and I want to see them in action and in motion. And Jay, I'm right there with you. I'm super excited for Miranda Otto. I had not seen or heard anything from her in quite some time, but she just popped up in last year's Talk to Me from A24. Really good to see her again. And Aowen is such a central character for the Rohirrim. I think it makes sense to bring her back as the narrator, and you'll have that connective tissue to the people that are such fans of the Peter Jackson trilogy.
Yeah, now Entertainment Weekly did release 2 stills today. It was just this afternoon of the main character and the primary antagonist.
I hadn't seen those. Okay. Helm Hammerhand by Brian Cox. Okay, yeah. I did read that Brian Cox was going to be voicing someone. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
Gaia Wise is Hera. She's supposed to be like the daughter of Helm Hammerhand, and she's like the primary main character of it. Okay. And then the antagonist is, I think his name's just Wolf. It's like WULF or something. And he's supposed to be like somebody like leading an army against the Rohirrim, and he's supposed to be the antagonist. So those stills were released just this afternoon to kind of pair with all of these announcements that were coming out of this film festival.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, up next, maybe franchise fever still exists. One would think so after seeing that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's latest team-up, Bad Boys Ride or Die, crushed its opening weekend projections, opening at $104.6 million globally. The film punished Furiosa's opening with a 58% higher box office. With Inside Out 2 premiering this week, did everyone just have the pre-summertime blues about going to the theaters?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I did go to the theater this weekend, and I did see Bad Boys Ride or Die, which is kind of funny because I had never seen Bad Boys for Life, the third film. So the last time I kind of contemplated doing this was back in September when The Equalizer, they had their third film, but I doubled down and I watched the first 2 movies before I went and saw this one. This one was totally on a whim. And I think the pressure was on with, the AMCA list. I did not go last weekend, so I felt like, I have to go. I have to go do something. And the word of mouth was, relatively good. And, I saw it. I enjoyed it. It was okay. It's going to be pretty forgettable. But, the main story here really is the health of the box office. So, looking at this opening and thinking about Bad Boys for Life, which again, I have not seen, but back in February of 2020, so keep in mind it's February and it's 2020, it opened to 48 million domestically. So for the sequel to open to 56 million is better, but it's also a summer release. So, Bad Boys for Life went on to gross $426 million globally on a $90 million budget. And I think they just increased the budget for this one by $10 million at $100 million. So if it performs similarly, why is that word so tough for me? Similarly, we'll probably have more Bad Boys films in the future, especially considering that Will Smith does not have all that much going for him. But again, the summer box office, it's downright pitiful. And I just don't get it. I don't understand
Cynical
what's happening.
Scotty lives.
He's back, baby.
Yeah.
Wait, he never left.
What happened to you this week, Scotty?
I don't know. Someone hurt me.
He's seen some things this week.
He saw Bad Boys, Ride or Die.
That very well could be.
He came back with a goatee. Look, he's the dark Scotty now.
Yeah. Just sideburns. It's all sideburns. But no, this problem with this box office, it's beyond the lack of movies due to the strike. This speaks to something endemic, and I don't know what the answer is, but for a lover of movies and a lover of the theater experience, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just really concerned that one of my favorite pastimes and favorite ways to get some downtimes might be going by the wayside, because it seems like, the people that just want to watch, day one streaming and shell out their $25 for a rental, it seems like they're winning. So last little thought here was, again, I can't help but look at last summer and looking at June. June was crowded, so maybe we should have pushed some stuff like, Transformers Rise of the Beast and even Dead Reckoning. As much as I hate to say that, I was really looking forward to seeing that. But with how crowded last summer was and knowing that we were in the midst of the strike, it probably would have behooved Hollywood to push at least a couple of these for this summer. And I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have been the answer. Maybe they would have performed just as pitifully if they had been put out this year, but I suspect that wouldn't be the case.
Don't let the man get you down like that, Scotty.
Oh, thank
Go
you.
see your movies. I don't think movie theaters are going away. I think if that was going to happen, COVID would have totally killed more of them than what it did. Now, a lot of them unfortunately did close, especially, smaller independent ones. But I think we've talked about this recently. Like, I just don't think that Hollywood knows what that in-between thing is that is getting people to go out and see movies. And they're just kind of like throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. And if it sticks, they're going to do more of it, which isn't, that's what I would do too if I was a business person. But yeah, Inside Out 2 is going to premiere and they're projecting $80 to $90 million opening. And I'm like, on what planet Earth is this happening? Because I don't think it's going to be this one. And maybe I'll eat my words, and if so, that's great. But for an animated movie like Inside Out 2, you're drawing on pure nostalgia for the parents and then them willing to bring their kids out to see the film. I don't know if it's going to get there. I just really don't.
Well, and we've talked about it before, but a lot of those kids' movies, they don't have the biggest openings. Even if they end up with good runs in the theaters, they are often a little more stretched out because people with kids aren't as in a hurry to see. Inside Out is just not when you're worried about getting spoiled online and you need to see this week or whatever. Generally, maybe I'm sure there's someone out there.
Somebody didn't see Inside Out 1.
I still haven't seen Inside Out 1.
I can tell.
I have.
You didn't like it?
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was really good.
I enjoyed it.
Well, the cheese stands alone, so whatever. What else is new?
Did not mean to gang up on you like that.
I still want to see Inside Out 1, and somehow I've still avoided spoilers for 10 years or whatever it's been.
Is it a film you can spoil?
Not really.
There's one scene.
Yeah.
There's one scene.
Yeah.
I've heard there is something you can spoil.
She-Hulk spoiled that.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I remember that being in She-Hulk, and I wiped it. I neuralized myself. I remember being like, I don't remember what that was.
You gaslit yourself. You're like, I really didn't see that.
For sure. I really don't remember what it was. Completely don't remember.
I was really interested in what would happen to Will Smith's career after the infamous slap at the Oscars, and I think a lot of the conversation was that it was effectively over at that point, that he would never draw crowds again, that people would not come to his movies, that people in Hollywood wouldn't want to work with him, and that he was done. And I think this is clear proof that that's not the case. I mean, to have a pretty big opening like this, I think this all but means that rumored I Am Legend 2 is going to get pushed up and get made a little faster than maybe we thought it would. I think Michael B. Jordan is involved with that, and that's probably moving up. And yeah, we're probably getting another Bad Boys too, if this one does as well as it did. And I just think I don't have a take on that necessarily. I'm not going to get up here and explain all the intricacies of how did Will Smith get out there and lead a box office after all of this controversy, but because I think it's complicated and I think there's a lot of layers to it. But I just think I'm just pointing it out because I think it's interesting that this is his first real major. I'm back. I'm in a movie. Are you going to see it or not? And clearly, it's maybe not as detrimental to someone's career to have something so public as maybe it used to be. whenever you're talking about their face on a movie and marketing a movie. And I think some of these other stars that we've talked about, they're all different situations, but people like Johnny Depp, people like Jonathan Majors, I think their PR teams are probably taking note. They're probably like, how did Will Smith, get around this and kind of get to a high opening on a weekend? Again, different situations, but still that same kind of idea of like having a public thing happen and then conversation about your career being over, and then not being over, and like what are the steps to that look like? But Will Smith, he's a businessman. I mean, he made it happen.
It really makes me wonder like what was different about the marketing of this movie versus Bad Boys for Life. And Scotty, you mentioned it was a summer release this time instead of a February release, which does definitely matter. But having such a big opening, a big jump forward from the last one, it seems like a big deal, and it seems like whatever they did to market it differently this time probably had some impact. All right. So if you are enjoying this show, we have a thing called Patreon, where you can like send us money to support this show and like just give us a little tip for making this show every week. We work really hard on it. We hope you enjoy it. And patreon.com/multiverse newscast. And you can go over there and send us a few bucks a month.
This is us like spinning the iPad around right now. We're like spinning
Yes,
it around. We're like tap 25% or whatever.
That's exactly right.
It's just one choice, though. It's $4.
That's right. And you guys, you people out there who like always fall for the iPad spinning, fall for it now. Just go. Like even though we're just a barista and we like, or whatever, I don't know, baristas get tips. Like whatever.
We do a lot of work.
Hey, we're not just pouring coffee over here. We've earned that $4.
Right.
We're not just a cashier at the coffee place.
The cashier who like asked for a tip, or at like some other place, like, I just ordered a sandwich. You didn't serve me at a restaurant, but I'll still tip you. Do that for us. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast.
Do the classy thing.
Oh, you better. Cynical J. Scotty will come after
Scotty's going to get more and more cynical every week until he's like shock jock, like he's just screaming into the microphone, like you're gonna make him get to that point if you don't join Patreon.
That wasn't very classy. It's like weird, like Alex Jones style J. Scotty screaming.
No, please do not compare it. They're turning the freaking frogs, cats.
Sorry, I was watching someone commenting on Alex Jones thing right before we started this, so sorry about that. Just you screaming with your like veins bulging in your head. Do the classy thing. Support the show. Okay, that's enough of a Patreon plug. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Multiverse News. As always, we do a Spotify poll over on Spotify. If you watch the show on Spotify or listen to the show on Spotify, you can take part in that. And the question was, what do we cover that you do not care about at all? This was inspired by a conversation last week where we were talking about something about people not caring at all about certain things.
It was our review.
Came off of,
yeah, they said they only pay attention
to
25 to 50% of what we do.
But in a complimentary way. Like it was.
Yeah. We love it. I think he posted in this Facebook group too about it.
I love it.
Shout out.
Shout out. So yeah, on Spotify we got a few answers. JX Sizzle says, honestly, I love it all. Keep it coming, guys. Thank you. But that's not what we asked, JX Sizzle. Random Roy said, you mean apart from Secret Invasion? ? They continue, I'm not a big non-sci-fi horror guy, so Annabelle 15, Saw 45, and Jaws 19, that sort of thing. It's fair.
That reminded me that people view Jaws as horror.
Right.
It's fair. I'm sure it's traumatized so many people from ever going back to the beach again. But I don't know. I view it as more of like a blockbuster.
Yeah. Well, they say it's the first blockbuster,
exactly,
but like, I do think it like when it came out, it was a horror. I think we think of it more of like a prestige blockbuster now, but like, at the time, it's very interesting. I watched Patrick H. Willem break down all of what happened in Jaws and if it really how different, because there's this lore about Jaws having the script being one way, and they had to cut a bunch of the shark because of the underwater stuff didn't work. And like he breaks down like what they actually filmed and what they actually would have been different, and like how it wouldn't have been that much different. Really, it's really interesting. It's like a deep dive.
Interesting.
I really like Patrick H. Willem, mentioned him a lot. HCS Wiboda says Godzilla and Transformers. I want you guys, if you feel attacked by any of these, like jump in.
I'm never really attacked by anything, especially not other people's opinions.
Spicy J does not exist. He's a myth.
Just a pure myth.
He's just missed in the forest. Dylan Frazina says, love it all. Thank you, Dylan. And Amos Boop, still one of my favorite screen names, says The Witcher. Just doesn't care about The Witcher.
We don't either.
Yeah, nobody had watched it. One of us.
That's kind of the joke that we don't like it either.
Yep, that's true.
I don't know that I don't like it. I've just never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have no opinion on it.
Yeah, have you never seen it either, Jay Scotty?
I watched the pilot, and it was okay. It was okay.
You know what? So did I. You just made me remember that I watched the first episode.
Memory unlocked.
Oh, yeah.
Matt's Mind Palace gates are locked a lot.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember half
Endless
what happens.
padlocks up there.
Just David Bowie running around in there.
Just floating in a bubble or whatever. Sunny Tetris says Taylor Swift Cinematic Universe. They don't care about.
Oh, you're going to be disappointed at the lightning round today.
I was going to say, we barely talk about her, but we will today.
There was a moment. There was a time when we got really into T-Swift because of her wonderful success last summer.
Go Taylor.
Did you say that you have bad blood with the Multiverse newscast?
Ooh. All right. Jess K says nothing. If you're covering it, I care.
That's my girl.
You,
It's a real one.
That's right. That's right. Love it. All right. Well, we're going to dive into the lightning round. You guys know how this works. We are going to break down a number of stories quickly. I'm going to read the story. Someone is going to claim it by chiming in with their name as the buzzer, and then they're going to comment on that story. And once per round, you get a rebuttal. Once per lightning round, you get a rebuttal. So we're going to try to keep it moving. Abbott Elementary actor Tyler James Williams asked Anthony Mackie about the challenges he faced transitioning Sam Wilson from films to television. Paraphrasing, Mackie said, bringing Falcon to that series, there was so much time to fill. It's literally so much story and so much exposition and so much character that it's a daunting task. Luckily, it was just a great experience with great leadership.
Haley, I need everyone, first of all, to know I'm watching all these videos. So when you give us $4 on Patreon, you're committing to our time as well. Thank you. I had to cut Mackie's quote way down because he talked about this for quite a while, but he was mostly talking about how hard TV is because of all of the time that you have to fill with the length of the episodes and stuff like that, and how much he really wanted to protect the integrity of the character of Sam Wilson from Falcon and to Captain America, and so that was kind of his concern. Like he said, it was a big concern of his going to the TV show to do it, but that because they had this focal point of him becoming Captain America, it gave it a really good direction to go to. And he didn't talk about, the issues they had with rewrites and stuff like that. He was just kind of focusing on his character and what he was worried about and how it was successful.
Yeah, had he done any other television? Like, I don't know.
He said, I did Law and Order. And Tyler was like, me too. He's like, everybody has. It was so funny. But no, I don't think he's done. I mean, he's done Twisted Metal, recently too, but not as much
Altered
as
Carbon too.
Tyler
Wasn't he on season
He did this.
But like Tyler James Williams is like a big TV actor, and so it was a bit of a dichotomy between the two.
Right. I was trying to think of what he's done, but yeah, I'd forgotten Twisted Metal and Altered Carbon, even though we podcasted about it.
There it is again.
Just that Mind Palace.
Yep, that's that locked Mind Palace again. Okay, Legendary has tapped Grant Sputore to direct the next theatrical outing in the Monsterverse franchise. Following March's Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, Sputore most recently helmed the 2019 sci-fi movie I Am Mother.
Scotty, I have not seen I Am Mother, but I did do a little bit of research, and it looks like it's a Netflix movie, and it looked like it had a pretty small and tight cast, but I did notice Hilary Swank and Rose Byrne were involved, and it did have, pretty rave reviews and good critical reception. And this is the first film from Grant Sputore, and he apparently worked on the story with a co-writer there, so I just kind of look at this. He seems like a kind of an unproven entity to me in this industry. But I'm encouraged by the fact that someone can do a project on Netflix. And the nice thing about Netflix is it really has empowered a lot of people to be able to do more like mid-budget and smaller budget stuff and get it out there. But I also do become concerned about, does it just get lost in the machine of Netflix and how many people are actually seeing this thing? Because I actually had not even heard about this movie until this story and did the subsequent research. But I am encouraged to go check it out and see what kind of a filmmaker it is. But again, it's just encouraging that while, it may seem like people are getting opportunities, it seems like a lot of times those opportunities don't go anywhere. It seems like this is a case that opportunity will blossom into more opportunities. So I liked Godzilla x Kong more than I expected to. Hopefully the franchise can continue that trajectory.
Yeah, I'm going to tiny butt just to say that I saw this story earlier in the week and saw the guy's name and didn't recognize it. And it said, he did this movie, I Am Mother. I was like, well, 2019, that was a while ago. Let me just go over to his IMDb page real quick, and brought it up. And literally, that's it. It's I Am Mother's the only thing on his IMDb page. So to me, that speaks to a load of confidence that Legendary has that this is a person that can get it done, which to your point, Scotty, is impressive, but also maybe a bit of a risk. But apparently he has ideas that they like, and they want to give him a shot.
Kristen Stewart will make her TV series starring debut in The Challenger, a limited series in which she'll play Sally Ride, the astronaut and physicist who became the first American woman to fly in space.
Haley? Kristen, interesting that this is her first TV role, kind of like we were talking about with Mackie. She has really good dramatic chops. I'll give it to her. She did that Diana biopic, and I can't remember now exactly what it was called, but
Spencer,
yeah. She was great in that. And that was kind of an indie film sort of thing. So I think she can pull it off.
Absolutely. Paul Giamatti has joined the cast of Paramount's Star Trek Starfleet Academy as a recurring guest star role and as the season's central villain. Matt. I don't think anybody else is chiming in on this.
You got it.
This is exciting. This is really exciting. There's been, we discussed it a lot on the Star Trek Universe podcast. There's a lot of weirdness around this Starfleet show because Starfleet Academy show because we don't still know what era it's set in. And there's some, there's some Starfleet Academy stuff being mentioned like 800 years in the future and all this weirdness. But the addition of Paul Giamatti, especially, coming off such like Oscar buzz last year and stuff, I just think this is huge for the show. Like, just absolutely huge. The Star Trek has a great history of having big, well-known actors as the villain of the thing, and I think that's something that gets lost in the last few years. And so I'm excited for this. I'm really, really excited for Paul Giamatti to come in and chew up some scenery. He can play really big, and I think Star Trek villains work well when they kind of chew the scenery like that. So I'm pumped for that.
It's going to be a Klingon.
I was thinking that. Like, I don't know why, but I could totally see him being a Klingon. It's funny that you say that. Set in the same era as The Acolyte, the next adult novel of Phase 2 of the High Republic from Star Wars releases on June 11th. Matt, someone else can take it, but I just got to say, The Acolyte, the next adult novel of Phase 3 of the High Republic from Star Wars, is utterly ridiculous. It's totally correct, but Star Wars has too many qualifiers. But I pass that story to whoever else wants to claim it.
You
Sorry.
should see the book I just finished reading, which is like Star Wars, this, that. Like,
Right.
It's always that way. It's so silly.
We talked about that with like Mission Impossible, Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Like,
yeah. They got Tom Cruise to brand their stuff. No, this book came out today. It's really good. I've started it. And yeah, it's in that same timeline of The Acolyte. So if you're liking that and you want to get into the books, don't start with this one, but there's a lot to do.
Sweet. Yeah, you've been talking a lot about that. I think that'd be interesting to dive into. The star of 1998's cult classic Practical Magic, Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman are in talks to star in a sequel.
Haley?
Scotty?
Okay. Go ahead, Scotty.
I've never seen 1998's Practical Magic, but I'm excited for
Never
Nicole
mind, I take
Kidman
it back.
to be able to do something other than the AMC opening.
He's like, yeah, I'll take
sequences.
this. I'll take this. Yeah.
Hey, I just took the Star Wars one just to bag on what it was called. Haley, talk about Practical Magic.
I haven't seen it in so long, but I mean, it's so beloved, and people use that Alan Silvestri music from it, like on Instagram and TikTok all the time. I hope he gets to come back and do the score.
That'd be rad. Entertainment Weekly claims to confirm that Taylor Swift will not be appearing as Dazzler in July's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Jay, I'm sure we all have something to say maybe about it. I don't know. Yeah, so Entertainment Weekly, they exclusively came out with this. They said, like, we have confirmed this. Like, we are presenting this as fact that she is not in this movie in this role. And when you've got a trade saying it with their chest that much, you just got to believe them that they do have legit sources that can confirm or deny that. So yeah, this has been a rumor online that has circulated for the whole year. I think that it has not stopped Ryan Reynolds from using it to market Deadpool, which I think is part of why he's good at what he does. It really got taken off this fall whenever Taylor Swift and Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds were all up in the NFL box seats at the games, and all that type of stuff. People are like, well, she's got to be in this movie. And then they started writing comic books about Dazzler that looked a lot like Taylor Swift. And then last week they put out an IMAX poster for Deadpool and Wolverine with Deadpool and Wolverine kind of holding hands, and they have the Taylor Swift friendship bracelets that say IMAX on them. So they're definitely leaning into it a little bit, and I think that's the right move. I don't we don't have to debate whether or not it's a right move to not have Taylor Swift in your movie, because if she was never in it in the first place, then it doesn't matter, right? But still, I think the saga behind this has just been really interesting, from rumor to almost confirmed by people who are sort of close to these things, to now a major publication saying, look, we've seen it, she's not in it. So R.I.P. Taylor Swift and Dazzler, as Dazzler, it was a good run.
Tiny Butt, did it say specifically she will not appear as Dazzler? Because now I'm just like, is that a loophole?
I
will she
think
appear as someone else?
I'm pretty sure it just said she is not in this movie. Like, it was pretty definitive. Like she's friends with Ryan Reynolds, all that, but like she's not in this movie.
I will believe it when I see the movie. No. I don't believe it still.
Rebuttal here. Apart from the whole conversation about whether or not Taylor Swift should be in this movie or not, like, this really does feel like anti-news to me. Like, it's only these very specific circumstances that are allowing this to even be a news story. It's the fact that Taylor Swift is the most popular person on the planet right now, and in a year with only one Marvel movie, Deadpool and Wolverine is so anticipated. So it's like, when else would this be a story? Yeah, there's been a lot of fervor and speculation about her being in the movie, but I can't think of really any other time that a story like this has become like a headline, yeah, this person's not appearing in this movie. Okay, I'm not appearing in this movie either.
We'll get your press release out tomorrow.
That's one thing
Scotty,
me and Taylor Swift have in common.
The only thing.
I think that Jess can fact check me, but I think that her publicist, whose name I can't remember, is kind of a weird name. I think she like exclusively likes to feed things to Entertainment Tonight, so this probably is very legitimate, and it's probably done very purposefully because that woman knows how to PR Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Well, I think Scotty's right. It is anti-news. It's also anti-Sunny Tetris because this is the only thing we talk about that Sunny Tetris doesn't
Could
care
have been
about.
a feature, but it wasn't.
Because Sunny Tetris said that in the Spotify review, this got moved to lightning round. This would have been a 10-minute
no, you
discussion.
guys don't have that much power.
Peacemaker Season 2 has cast Picard actress Saul Rodriguez and The Office actor David Denman.
Jay, yeah, Peacemaker Season 2 is filming. It's rolling. There's a lot of excitement coming out of that set as James Gunn posts about it and John Cena posts about it. And yeah, we don't really know what roles specifically these people are playing, but they are definitely names of note. The David Denman played Roy on The Office, if you remember, and had sort of comedic chops there. But I'm thinking of him in a HBO limited series that he did alongside Kate Winslet called Mayor of Easttown. He was in that series, and he played sort of this much more dramatic character and was excellent in that series. So he's got some range. He's not just Roy from The Office.
The Boys showrunner Eric Kripke announced that the show will end after its 5th season.
Scotty, I think this is the right move. It's always encouraging to me when a showrunner and a creative has, an end in sight, and they're not just spinning the wheels and trying to milk a show for everything that it's worth. And I look at Eric Kripke's past, and Supernatural was a very long-lived series, and it seemed like the fan base was on board all the way through. So there is a potential like this guy could have had this show go on for, upwards of 10 seasons, and maybe the quality would have been there. But again, I always just have to appreciate when someone protects the creative vision rather than trying to, get the most out of it that they can.
Yeah, I'm going to use the rebuttal on this one to say that we've been saying this anytime we've been talking about The Boys. Whenever it's come up on this show, we've been talking about how there's not a lot of gas left in the tank if you want to conclude the story. I mean, the story is about these personalities clashing and escalating, and at some point that just becomes monotonous and boring, and you're not hitting what you used to do. Like at some point that will happen to this show if it continues to just they're gonna fight, they're gonna clash, wait till next season, and then now we're escalating more, wait till next season, like it'll lose its steam. So yeah, we've been saying this for a while, that we thought The Boys was going to end this season or next season probably, and that's seems to be correct. I mean, it's already spun one successful spinoff. It's about to spin another spinoff, and I think this universe, at least in and of itself, even without its main show, is going to be alive and well. It's one of Prime's flagship IPs at this point, and I think people will continue to come back to it. But yeah, that raises the stakes for season 5, and like you said, Scotty, I agree with you. I think it's the right move.
The Yahya Abdul-Mateen II-led Wonder Man series is rumored to be 10 episodes long. Matt, awesome. I'm just excited to hear an update about the show. I feel like it's kind of been one of those that like we knew was coming, but with so many canceled things and movement at Marvel and not hearing a lot of details about this one, I'm always worried about this one. So hearing that it's going to be 10 episodes long, hey, it's still happening. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'll use a rebuttal here. Just kind of hearing you talk about that, and I do think we're kind of due for some additional details on this series, though. It is encouraging to get a little bit of details and know that it's still working. But I recall when I first saw this headline came out, I saw somebody in our Stranded Panda Facebook group, post a link. I saw New Rock Stars on YouTube. They were doing a breakdown. And actually, this just came out of an article that was announcing the fact that Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is going to be in a Man on Fire TV series. And this was just like a footnote that he happened to reveal through conversation that this was a 10-episode series. So again, I hope we get a trailer or some kind of footage or some kind of special look sooner rather than later.
Yeah, me too. The Frasier revival on Paramount Plus has added 2 Frasier alumni to the cast. Dan Butler, who played Bulldog, and Edward Hibbert, who played Gil Chesterton on the original show, will return to guest star in season 2 of the revival series.
I guess I have to take this one, even though I haven't watched the revival, and I'm not going to because Frasier is a very special show to me, and I just don't want to. I have seen really positive things from fans about it, and I think that's great. These are 2 really loved characters from the original series of Frasier, and it's funny because Dan Butler is a gay man who played a really straight guy. Ed Hibbert, who played Gil, was like this closeted gay guy who was trying to be straight. So I kind of wonder if, because it's 2024, they might do something fun with that and let them be more like who they are in the show now.
That's funny, the 2 of them.
It's a very 90s show thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. Without spoiling too much, and I have seen large portions of Frasier, but are the characters like closely connected? Does it make sense?
They all work with Frasier at the radio station.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
They each are hosts of their own show. So Bulldog hosts the sports show, and he's like Mr. Macho, blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
and Gil is the restaurant critic, and then there's Frasier, the psychiatrist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun.
Their dynamics are fun together.
Zack Snyder's director's cuts of both Rebel Moon films will be released on Netflix on August 2nd. The rated R cuts will also receive new titles, which are Chapter 1, Chalice of Blood, and Chapter 2, Curse of Forgiveness.
Haley, okay, no, because if we're going to come after Star Wars, here we go with Zack Snyder's director's cuts, Rebel Moon, Chapter 1, Chalice of Blood.
Didn't
sorry, what are we doing?
They did
why
have
wouldn't
names.
you just
That's
put
why it's
these?
so funny.
Yes, why wouldn't you just put these on the Netflix?
Because it's Zack Snyder, and you've got to have the Zack Snyder.
This is this
and then
man's
you gotta
entire
have the
personality
Snyder
at this
cut
point.
of the Zack Snyder movie. And oh man, like the fact that we just didn't get the original movie is hilarious, because when you watch his director's cuts, sometimes you're like, oh, that's what that storyline was supposed to do. Because they cut all these random scenes that like make the thing sort of make more sense. And yeah, this is apparently like a hardcore like rated R cut. Like they PG-13'd it for Netflix. It's like, I don't know, the simulation's getting lazy. Like, we're doing the Snyder cut again, and the names is just hilarious to me. Like, it's almost like a joke. Like, if you told me that they had different names, like Chalice of Blood or whatever, I'd be like, that's hilarious. Yeah. No, that's serious. Yeah, it's just too perfect. I have nothing else to say about it.
It's too perfect. I love it. Although, okay, as dumb as this is, I kind of like the name Curse of Forgiveness. It's intriguing to me.
It's better than the other one, the Scar Giver. That was the second one, right?
Yeah, bad name.
Yeah, they're all bad. They've all been bad.
What
was the first one called?
What is that?
Child of
I
Fire.
don't know.
Yeah.
Child of Fire.
These are better names, for sure.
I don't know. Chalice of Blood is so generic. Like, that's so, like, any fantasy story.
So is Curse of Forgiveness.
I don't know. Curse of Forgiveness is like, it's evocative.
I know. Of what?
Gets the people going.
That's right. Exactly. Gets me going. It gets me thinking about what is the Curse of Forgiveness. You know?
No good deed
Yeah,
goes
you'll
unpunished.
go find out.
It's just another way of saying that.
Go find out in August. You know, you'll have probably a 3-hour Zack Snyder cut of a movie to find out.
A 3-hour tour. Saturday Night Live actor Beck Bennett becomes the newest addition to the cast of James Gunn's Superman. Rumor has it Bennett will play a reporter of note in the movie. Last week, Michaela Hoover and Christopher McDonald were also added to the cast and will also play reporters in the Daily Planet newsroom.
Scotty, I think this is a great ad. I think Beck Bennett is a really funny guy. I think he always lends a lot of talent and great comedic timing to everything that I've seen him in. And I recall when he was dismissed from Saturday Night Live a couple of years ago. Apparently he left amicably, but it just felt kind of weird that he was the only one dismissed from his trio of, I think they were I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, but I think they all came from the Good Neighbor YouTube channel, a trio that all, worked and performed and wrote together. But this whole Superman movie, everything we've been seeing about it has become clear to me that James Gunn is taking a lot of inspiration from My Adventures with Superman, which is the anime series that's, airing on Max currently. The second season is airing currently. And we get to spend a lot of time in the Daily Planet newsroom there, and there's a character that we were just talking about a sports, reporter. There's a character called Steve Lombard that I think Beck Bennett would just be perfect for, and even if he is just a reporter, maybe like Snapper Carr or something like that, I think just having him in the mix will be a lot of fun. And then I do not recognize Michaela Hoover, but Christopher McDonald, he's just like, he is like, if you want a classic looking like anchorman, like he's the guy you go for. And I had all forgotten until I saw his name again that he popped up in Secret Invasion. So hopefully this will be a better.
We all forgot about Secret Invasion, Scotty. It's okay.
Hopefully this will pan out better for him than Secret Invasion did.
Hopefully it'll pan out better for all of
Yes.
us. Jonathan Bailey revealed that the Jurassic movie started filming this month in his pre-recorded Actors on Actors interview with Naomi Watts.
Haley, yay. It's really happening, but we don't know anything about it.
Truth.
I think they're still sticking on that release date of like June of 2025 or something.
They must
And I'm
be
like,
if they're already
what?
filming.
Like, are we getting animated dinosaurs in this or what? I don't know. Seems ambitious.
It's like the technology used for the dinosaurs is like similar to the Mr. DNA from the first one. Like,
That'd be kind of cute.
Or they just cut corners constantly, like the Velociraptors just like shoot across the screen really fast and stuff. It's just, just whatever we can do to save a buck.
And we're back to Jaws. The dinosaurs didn't work, you guys. We had to hide them until the very end.
We'll make locusts the bad guys. That'll work.
Isn't the message of Jurassic Park that we're the bad guys at the end of the day?
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that is the show. Thanks for joining us here on Multiverse News. Let's go around the panel and tell them where they can find you online. Haley Hobbs.
I'm at Source Pages. We've got a couple weeks of Doctor Who only cast, so if you're watching the new season, thankfully we have Karen on there as our Doctor Who expert, and we'll be discussing a Star Wars Legends novel called Darth Bane Dynasty of Evil in a couple weeks too. And then Ash, Jeff, and I are doing The Acolyte. That first episode dropped.
Sweet. And this third episode of Acolyte dropped like right now. We're all about to go see it. Woo! Jay Scotty.
Yeah, we talked about The Boys a good amount on this show. So also on Pandavision, that show is going to be premiering as well. So you can catch all the coverage for that show on the Pandavision feed. And then for your animated needs, check me out on Animation Deliberation.
Sweet. And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, you can find me at Commute the Podcast, where we're going to cover 3 interesting things in about the time it takes you to get to work, about 20 minutes. So check us out over there.
Awesome. And I just can't say enough about Panavision, what's going on over there. We both Haley and Jay Scotty mentioned it, but we've got The Boys dropping Thursday, and we're going to drop it as quick as we can. And we've got The Acolyte running. They're going to be doing every other week coverage of that. And we've got House of the Dragon. We've been mentioning it's coming. It's starting now. The insane, like the entire Stranded Panda family has just been like talking. I've got a really busy weeks coming up because not only is it summer and we've all got stuff to do, but we're doing way too many podcasts. So please come join and support those shows. If you haven't ever subscribed, go over and hit that subscribe on Pandavision, and we'll be over there doing it, dropping stuff about all the great shows coming out. So we'll be back soon. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing, eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. StrandedPanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts, and thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.